What is going on, guys? It is WrestleMania here, back with another episode. We are just weeks away from the 30th annual Survivor Series. If you think about it, this is a huge milestone, and many overlook that the Survivor Series was the second biggest event brought into the WWF after WrestleMania. Over that time, we've had the debut of one of the greatest and most respected stars in the business, The Undertaker, Santa Claus appearing on 2 occasions, the fall of the WCW-ECW alliance, and a screwjob that echoed throughout the wrestling world. So we're gonna celebrate the milestone by looking at 10 facts that you may not know about the Survivor Series. Number 1. Let's start off with a very obscure one. Most people may know that when The Undertaker debuted at the Survivor Series 1990, he was 25 years old, and of course that was 26 years ago. What you may not know is that The Undertaker has been wrestling in the WWE since that date, longer than 4 wrestlers on the Raw and SmackDown roster, as well as 10 wrestlers on both NXT and CWC have been alive. These include Bronson Matthews, Rich Swann, Mandy Rose, Alexia Bliss, Sasha Banks, Sarah Lee, Paige, Peyton Royce, Akam, Noam Dar, Daria, Jojo, Rezar, and Aaliyah. These guys have literally never known a takerless WWE. Number 2. Speaking of the legend that is The Undertaker, both he and Shawn Michaels share the most appearances at Survivor Series with 17. Weirdly enough, they both have opposite records in the win-loss category, with Taker having the most wins with 12 and Michaels having the most losses with 10. Number 3. Most will know 1998's edition of Survivor Series swerved completely, offering no typical Survivor style matches. Instead, they had the Deadly Games multi-man tournament with a chance of winning the then vacant WWF Championship. That being said, the Deadly Games tournament wasn't considered to be the first tournament held at the Survivor Series. 1990's edition of Survivor Series saw the first and only time where the survivors of each 4-on-4 matches would end up in the grand finale. Survivors Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior and Tito Santana faced the dastardly team of Ted DiBiase, Rick Martel, The Warlord, Hercules and Paul Roma. Even with the outnumbered opponents, saying your prayers and eating your vitamins prevailed over evil, and the team of Hogan and Warrior steamrolled through the 5 even without Santana. I wonder who had their hand in booking this match. Number 4. As mentioned before, the Survivor Series is most memorable for the debut of The Undertaker way back in 1990. But the Phenom wasn't the only debut the pay-per-view had played host to. Blue Chipper Rocky Maivia made his debut at the 1996 Survivor Series, joining the team led by Mark Merrow. He wasn't exactly seen as the star he is today, mind you. This was also the ring debut of one Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. Albeit his first match was against the forgettable Shawn Stasiak, he would start his short winning streak from here. In much more recent years, the Survivor Series has also been host to debut none other than Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and someone who I thought we would never actually see in the WWE, the legend himself, Sting. Number 5. Ever wondered why Shawn Michaels was put into a match with 3 random knights inexplicably at the 1993 Survivor Series? Well, whilst the WWF steroid scandal was playing out all over the news at the time, one particular controversy occurred which somehow managed to go unnoticed, that being the statutory rape charge against Jerry Lawler in 1993. As the story goes, before the case went to court, the girl admitted that she had made part of her story up, which was good enough for the charges to be dropped. Lawler was then brought back to TV without any explanation. But before these charges were brought forward, Lawler was in a bitter feud with Bret Hart. The storyline was building up towards a payoff at the Survivor Series 1993 with a traditional 4-on-4 match, and it was to be the Harts versus the King and his Knights. The only problem was, if you were watching at the time, Lawler was nowhere to be found on the day due to the charges being brought against him at the time. He was swiftly replaced by Shawn Michaels with no explanation given to the fans. But who were these 3 knights? Well, randomly, there were Barry Horowitz, Greg Valentine, and Jeff Gaylord from the USWA. Number 6. At last year's Survivor Series, a story emerged from the International Business Times claiming the activist group Anonymous had uncovered evidence that famed terrorist group ISIS was planning to attack Survivor Series held at the Phillips Arena in Atlanta on November 22nd. The FBI took the claim seriously and investigated the alleged threat, with the WWE not taking any chance and maximizing security, with any bags being confiscated if brought in. Even though the claim was taken seriously, the FBI claimed they had no credible or specific information that an attack was planned. The show went on, of course, with no attacks, which could have meant it was a hoax. Number 7. This image, which was posted on WWE.com sometime in 2012 with the article Historical Survivor Series Teams. The tagline simply reads, "Taking the place of Brown, The Undertaker made his debut as a member of this team." I'm in no way hating on Brown, but geez, if The Undertaker hadn't debuted on the team, this would have been a pretty lackluster one at best, since Brown has been known to be, in kayfabe terms, one of the worst teammates in Survivor Series history, walking out on his members on most occasions. Number 8. Survivor Series is known to be one of WWE's big 4 events of the year. Surprisingly, it hasn't had the same treatment with its grandness. It's very common for the likes of WrestleMania to be hosted in a stadium and has done so for numerous years. Both SummerSlam and the Royal Rumble have also had that chance of being in a stadium, with the Alamo Dome in 1997 and Wembley Stadium in 1992. Survivor Series though has always been left behind and has never been featured in one. It even misses out on this year's Survivor Series being at the Air Canada Centre. Number 9. It's a bit insulting when the best match on the card comes courtesy of 4 men who don't even work for the company. Survivor Series 1993 included something they have never done on a Survivor Series event, and that is showcase a title match where Smoky Mountain Tag Team Champions, the Rock and Roll Express, met the Heavenly Bodies. Alluring the fans' attention with flips, dives and moonsaults, the Heavenly Bodies came out as the new Smoky Mountain Champions. In present day WWE, you probably may not see such a thing. Number 10. Many of you may remember Taker's shocking title win over Hulk Hogan at Survivor Series 1991. It was a surprise since Hulkamania at the time had still been running wild and was still as popular as ever as champion, and knowing Hogan throughout the years, he was never one to put over the new guy. Needless to say, the finisher was something that Hogan would also never have likely have done, taking a tombstone piledriver on a chair. After the move had been executed, Hogan sold the move immensely, claiming that his head came in contact with the chair, which in turn had damaged his neck. A story backed up by the late William Moody, Paul Bearer, told that Hogan didn't think that Taker was ready to be champ and allegedly told this to Vince. Moody had also mentioned that Hogan sold the move like death even after walking backstage and collapsed once through the curtain, calling paramedics. Taker was of course devastated and accepted he didn't execute the move properly. It is not known when, but after the incident had happened, Taker was shown the match on tape and saw that Hogan's head clearly didn't even brush the chair. So it seemed that Hogan had faked an injury, probably within the hopes of taking Taker's popularity down a notch and ultimately killing his entire push. Of course now it seems that the Heat may have been killed off as they worked together in 2002, but still, what a cunt move. Well guys, that about wraps up this episode. For me personally, I hope to include another memorable moment to that initial list and pray that this year's main event featuring Goldberg and Brock Lesnar delivers and we put behind us their first encounter. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter and Facebook for updates. And I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.